Hey y'all. Well, this was not necessarily a planned video. You know, I normally do one video a week, every once in a while two, but never on a Sunday. And it's time for me to do a Sunday video because, I hate being right. I really do. Back in April, I did a video and I called it, Can We All Get Along? No. And my goodness, I seem to be so right that I'm just scaring myself. I mean, what a horrible week this has turned out to be for race relations. This has been a bad week. We had on Wednesday someone who was killed in Dallas and someone who was killed in Minnesota by police officers. And we have film from both of them, and it doesn't look good. Even though it seems that there are some people who can look at a film and see something totally different than what everyone else is seeing, trying to justify what the cops did. Can we all get along? No. Then we had protests. Actually, it turns out we had a lot of protests around the country. We had a protest here in Syracuse, which I didn't find out anything about until the next day. I happened to be out of town, so it was nothing I could have done anyhow. But there were protests all over, especially in Dallas, where one of the people was killed. And then, pretty close to the end of the protest, or the rally, whatever term you want to use, some nutcase decided to shoot cops. He was a sniper, got himself in a proper position. I guess he was militarily trained, and he ended up killing 5 cops. He shot 11. I'm not sure if he actually shot some civilians or not, but he was gearing for cops. That he was gearing for white cops. Thing is, Dallas has a black police chief who, the guy had already kind of said some stuff that they were going to be investigating, which is the best you can do. And this guy went off and shot some people. And then we started hearing about different places across the country where it looked like police were being set up so that they could be, shot at. Some were shot, some were killed. And I said, wow. We really can't all get along, can we? Then there has been blame. We have blamed the gun makers. We have blamed the fact that the NRA doesn't want any restrictions on who gets guns. We have blamed, not me, President Obama because he spoke out against the initial killings of the 2 men while referencing some other things that have happened over the last few years. And then they wanted to try to blame him because he came to the defense of the police and saying, well, okay, now you're setting the police up because now you're defending cops and there's people who don't like you, so now more people are going to go after the cops, which is really the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay, you know what? I say that often. It's just another stupid thing I've heard. And there's been blame after blame. Heck, even I got in on it. When I found out that the guy who was killed in Minnesota, he was shot after telling the cop, I'm a registered gun owner and I have a gun in the car, and he was shot in front of the guy's wife and child. And someone called the NRA and said, do you have a position on this? No, we're not going to say anything. These are the same people who backed Zimmerman when he killed Trayvon Martin, saying he had his right to have his gun. He's a registered gun owner. But gun owner killed by the police, they don't want to say anything. So I called them out for being hypocrites. Well, I'm trying to take a different tact with this particular video. This is actually the 3rd one of these I've shot. Because the other 2, I said, no. It's going off in the wrong direction. It's not saying what I want to say. And this is only the 2nd time in all these years that I've actually done some previous videos on the exact same topic and said, no, I'm going a different way. I don't want those others because that's a little bit off of what I really want to say. Here's what I want to say. Black Lives Matter. That is a very valid protest. Folks, if you're not black, you don't understand it. You're just not going to get it. I understand that you don't get it. Police lives matter. These folks have a real tough job to do in general. Not all cops are bad. I will say this. I have said in previous videos that I don't trust the police, and I basically don't trust the police because I don't trust groups of organizations. There's a whole lot. I don't trust sororities. I don't trust fraternities. I don't trust the Elks Club. I don't trust groups of people. But there are individuals who are good. And the police have a tough job. So, police lives matter. It's kind of nice to say that all lives matter, but that kind of misses the point. It's true. All lives do matter, but it misses the point. The Black Lives Matter movement is something totally different because it just feels like black people are being targeted. And it feels like they can't get any justice because every time there's a police officer who actually does get indicted, which doesn't happen most of the time. Most of the time, the grand juries say, we're not even going to take this into review. But in the past 5 or 6 years, out of all the cops who have been on trial for killing a minority, and because I'm going to add some others, only 2 have been convicted, and one of those was an Asian cop. So, the record isn't all that good. So we perceive police differently. We just do. We see the stats, but this is nothing new. In this other video that I talked about, Can't We All Get Along, I mentioned Rodney King. Rodney King was beaten by a bunch of cops. 4 of them get charged. All of them get off. There was video. And the audience said, well, they seem justified. I mean, that's just how it is. But it doesn't have to be that way. I actually am a leadership and diversity educator, speaker, presenter. And I'm one of those folks who believes that we can't fix anything until we can talk to each other about it. So, white people, you need to understand why Black Lives Matter. Black people, you need to understand what the police actually go through. Then we need to come together and have a conversation. We need to basically have more police in the community. Because once you know who are on the other side, you can't just be mad at them anymore. And it goes both ways. That's basically how life works in this world. I mean, I grew up at a time where we hated Russians. We were mad at Russians. We didn't trust Russians with nothing. And then we met some Russians and said, oh, wait, the government's been lying to us. They're not so bad. We've heard the same thing about Iran. I was in college when we had the Iran basically, took over the embassy and 444 people were captured. And oh my God, we hated Iran. We hated Iran for a long time. Then I met some Iranians. I said, well, wait. What's this? They're supposed to be terrible people. And they're not. And all of this was before the internet. Because the internet proves that you can talk to people all over the world. And it's not people in general that we have problems with. There's some fringe everywhere. But in general, once you get to meet somebody and once you get to talk to someone and you get a better understanding of what they're like, it's hard to hate them. Hard to be mad at them. You may not be the best friends with them. You may not invite them over for cake. But you can always invite me over for cake. I'll be there. But if we talk to each other, we have a better chance of respecting each other at least. So that we can eliminate different conflicts like this. Because this mess has to stop. I'm lucky, oddly enough, that I'm as old as I am because I'm less of a target across the board. But there's a lot of young black kids whose only crime is basically being black. And there's a lot of police whose initial reluctance is that they don't understand or don't feel comfortable with this other dynamic that they've been presented with. And some of them go nuts, but not all of them. Because I don't believe that in general communities take the time to get to know the actual people in the community. That's just my thought. But when we all get the chance to know each other, we do better. I will believe that. This is an ugly year in politics. It's been an ugly year in sports. I mean, let's just look at the soccer thing. My goodness. I mean, countries have been going at war with each other in the stands. It's been an ugly year because of terrorism. And I think that at a certain point, we just have to get a better understanding. We can't all get exactly what we want. Well, okay, maybe I can. At least I can shoot for it, but I know I'm not getting everything I want. So we discuss things, we come to an agreement of some type, and then we move on. Is that really so difficult? Y'all let me know. Am I way off my rocker here? I mean, is it feasible for me to think that if we can talk with each other, we can overcome some of these issues? Or am I just being Mr. Pollyanna? If I am, I'll just sit here and drink my lemonade. You let me know. I will talk to y'all later. Please, as Maury Povich always says, let's try to be good to each other. See y'all later.